A 20-year-old college student in New York has become the latest name on a hit list broadcast from Tehran. Iranian state television spent 3 minutes detailing how to find him, reach him, and what it would cost to kill him. Stay with me because what happened after that broadcast aired made the threat even more alarming. On Monday, Iranian state television put a price on Barron Trump's life. Iranian state TV called for the assassination of President Donald Trump's youngest son, Barron, issuing a $10 million bounty and broadcasting his location details. The segment ran on Channel 3, a state broadcaster tied to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and it wasn't subtle about its intentions. The footage was titled, "Where and How Should We Kill Barron Trump?" The video didn't stop at a headline. It claimed to show the location of his university, his escort vehicles, and the positioning of his Secret Service detail, alleging his movements have been fully monitored. Specifically, the segment aired footage purporting to track Barron Trump's movements on campus at New York University, where he is accompanied by escort vehicles and several members of the Secret Service. Then it got personal in a way that should worry anyone watching. The video also detailed the usernames for his Discord and Xbox accounts, according to Iran International. It didn't just stop at gaming handles either. Gaming and messaging accounts belonging to Barron were named in the broadcast, Xbox, FIFA, and Discord among them, and 2 of his classmates' accounts were referenced as well. One of the video's most unsettling claims involved someone allegedly getting past the very people paid to keep him safe. The video alleges that a girl had found a way past the Secret Service's protection, sat with Barron Trump in a private meeting, and passed information to the program's makers. It went further still, claiming Barron Trump communicates privately via voice and text on Xbox, away from his security detail. Iran International, the UK-based outlet that first flagged the segment in English, described the tone in blunt terms. According to their reporting, the segment displays locations and online platforms purportedly associated with the effort, and depicts attempts to map social connections around the president's son and penetrate layers of Secret Service protection. None of the surveillance claims have been confirmed by anyone outside of Tehran. The claim about the bounty could not be independently verified at the time of publication. Multiple outlets tried to check it and came up empty. The post could not independently verify the alleged bounty, the claims about his movements, or the statements about his classmates. But the broadcast closed with a line that made clear this wasn't meant to be a one-off. A final line closed out the segment. "This is just the beginning. Barron Trump, wait for us." That sign-off matters because it echoes something that happened a month earlier, and it tells you this wasn't the first time the Trump family found itself in Tehran's crosshairs. To understand why Iranian state media suddenly zeroed in on a college student, you have to rewind a few weeks. Last month, an Iran-linked video threatened both Barron Trump and the First Lady. The clip, titled "Where to Kill Melania," showed a mock-up of the First Lady's motorcade and calls on freedom fighters to take action against her. That earlier broadcast is where the "just the beginning" line actually originated. Reporting from the Jerusalem Post lays out how the Melania video ended with a tease of what was coming. The video was styled similarly to a previous video put out by the regime threatening U.S. First Lady Melania Trump last month, the report noted. That video called on freedom fighters to target the shops the First Lady frequents. The supposed video targeting the First Lady concludes with a tease that Barron Trump would be the next target. So Barron wasn't a random target, he was a promised one. And the pattern goes back even further than Melania. Iranian state media has been threatening the president himself for years, tracing back to a decision made during Trump's first term. In January 2020, a U.S. drone strike killed IRGC's Quds Force Commander Qasem Soleimani at Baghdad International Airport, an operation Trump authorized during his first term. Iranian officials vowed retaliation for Soleimani's killing at the time and have renewed those pledges repeatedly since. Those threats intensified dramatically after a far bigger flashpoint earlier this year. The more recent trigger is the death of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in the U.S.-Israeli strikes of 28 February, the opening salvo of the ongoing war. In the months since, Iranian state media has escalated from vague warnings to specific, visual threats against the president directly. In July, a billboard in Tehran's Islamic Revolution Square showed Trump apparently dead in a coffin, with the words, "We will kill Trump," written in English. Around the same time, a separate video released purported to map the route of Trump's motorcade between airports and his homes in Florida and New York. Trump himself has talked publicly about living under that kind of threat. Speaking at the NATO summit in Turkey, he said plainly, "I'm on whatever list. So far, I guess I've been a bit lucky, but maybe that doesn't last very long." These are evil, sick people. That comment wasn't idle. He made those comments before he secretly slipped out of the country on an alternate military plane, which he boarded while hidden inside a catering truck, as part of an elaborate ruse prompted by an Iranian threat. A person familiar with the matter told CNN that threat involved a shoulder-fired missile and was a specific enough threat that officials feared Trump's life would be at enormous risk if he flew on either version of Air Force One. Barron's case, though, is different in one important way. Unlike his father or stepmother, he'd largely stayed out of the spotlight up to this point. While there have previously been threats to First Lady Melania Trump, this appears to be the first time their son Barron has been publicly singled out. He's kept a low profile compared to his siblings. Compared to the president's other sons, he has kept a relatively low public profile, though he has attended some official events, including the president's UFC cage match at the White House in June, and the State of the Union address at the Capitol in February. The video even pulled in someone close to him. Barron's friend, conservative social media personality Bo Loudon, is also featured in the broadcast. That detail alone shows how far the Iranian production went to make the threat feel personal and specific, rather than generic saber-rattling. Analysts watching Iran closely say the timing isn't coincidental. Raz Zimt, who directs research on Iran and its allied groups at Israel's Institute for National Security Studies, told a podcast that the rhetoric reflects a regime backed into a corner. He explained that there is a potentially dangerous gap between recognizing that reality and deciding to compromise, adding that when forced to choose between risking another war or making concessions that feel like surrender, it's very clear that they are not going to give up. That backdrop, a regime under siege economically and militarily, lashing out with increasingly personal threats, is what turned a college kid at NYU into the subject of a hit-style broadcast on state television. The next question is what the people actually responsible for protecting him did about it. The moment the video surfaced, the agency tasked with keeping the Trump family alive had to respond. A Secret Service spokesperson gave CNN a statement that was as direct as it was tight-lipped. The U.S. Secret Service is aware of the video and investigates anything that can be perceived as a threat toward our protectees, said spokesperson Nate Herring. He added the agency wouldn't say more, explaining, out of concern for operational security, we do not discuss matters of protective intelligence. That's not a new posture for the agency. Barron has had protection for his entire adult life simply by virtue of being part of the president's household. Barron already has Secret Service protection since he has been a member of the president's immediate family. What's changed is the visibility of the threat against him, specifically, and that's expected to translate into real changes to his day-to-day life on campus. Tighter movement restrictions and more scrutiny of everything from his class schedule to his online accounts. Meanwhile, the president's public response took a different shape entirely. Rather than address the threat to his son directly, Trump used the moment to hammer Iran's economic collapse. He posted to Truth Social that Iran is completely collapsing, tying the moment to a bigger financial squeeze already underway. Trump claimed in a Monday post to Truth Social that the country is completely collapsing, as Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is set to place new sanctions on Iran, in what the president described as an economic D-Day, calling it the single greatest financial offensive ever marshaled against an adversary. That sanctions push is real, and it's happening on a scale meant to be crushing. The escalation comes as Washington prepares an economic D-Day sanctions push against Tehran, whose currency has plunged to record lows amid mounting economic strain. The Treasury Secretary has been blunt about the goal. The Iranian regime has escalated threats against President Trump and U.S. officials since the IRGC Quds Force commander Qasem Soleimani was killed in a drone strike during President Trump's first term in 2020. And now Washington intends to answer that history with maximum financial pressure. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has promised the toughest sanctions in history, alongside a naval blockade already squeezing Iranian trade. There's a reason some commentators have pointed out the bounty may be more bark than bite. Iran's currency has been in freefall, and that has real implications for whether a $10 million reward is even something the regime could pay out. One analysis broke down just how far the rial has fallen, noting that the Iranian rial has crashed into the basement, through the basement floor, and has sunk through the Earth's crust and into the mantle. As of that writing, $10 million American would be roughly 13.7 trillion Iranian rials. The same piece argued it's likely that the Iranians simply can't cover that bet, pointing to a military and government apparatus that has taken a beating that will cost the country a lot to repair, regardless of who's left in charge when all this finally ends. Even outlets sympathetic to a hard line on Tehran cautioned restraint in reading too much into the announcement. One assessment put it simply: this should be taken with more than a few grains of salt, framing the broadcast as part of a regime that's flailing now, with the regime issuing new threats and doubtful assertions with every passing hour. So far, that assessment noted, there's been no action on any of those threats. They may well be just more of the typical rhetoric that regularly comes out of Tehran. Still, the concern isn't purely about the regime's own operatives. It's about who else might be watching that broadcast and listening. There are between 750,000 and 1 million Iranian nationals in the United States right now. And while the overwhelming majority want nothing to do with violence against anyone, a video naming a specific university, specific gaming accounts, and specific classmates lowers the bar for a lone actor in a way official state-to-state threats usually don't. That's precisely why analysts covering the region see this less as a credible operational plan and more as psychological pressure aimed at rattling the Trump family. While Tehran absorbs military and economic hits it can't easily counter, Iran's leadership is under immense pressure, and lashing out at a 20-year-old might be its way of trying to regain some leverage, but it's a dangerous game. Whether or not any of the surveillance claims in the video hold up, the broadcast succeeded in doing what it set out to do. It made international news, it forced America's protective agencies to publicly acknowledge the threat, and it dragged a college student who'd spent years staying out of headlines squarely into one of the most dangerous stories of the year. For now, Barron Trump hasn't spoken publicly about the video himself, and the Secret Service isn't detailing what additional protection looks like behind the scenes. What is clear is that the number attached to his name, $10 million, is now sitting out there on state television in Tehran, unconfirmed, unpaid, but impossible to unsee. And with sanctions tightening and the war grinding on, nobody close to this story expects that video to be the last one.